The following podcast is sponsored by Luminary Leaders, Sadat and Associates, and Connected Women of Influence. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Speaker Central podcast show. I'm your host, Shelly Harrison. On this episode, we're talking about Junga the Dancing Yeti book series with my special guest, Stephen Tako. Welcome back for this new episode of Speaker Central, powered by Luminary Leaders, a speaker management and consulting company specializing in representing professional speakers and authors across the globe. We also work with CEOs and directors of companies to develop a customized strategy to use speaking as a tool to market their services and build their influence, as well as lead generation. I'm your host, Shelly Harrison. Each episode, we bring you thought leaders, experts, collaborative partners, and luminary leaders, speakers, to get into their mindset of business. We break down the conversations to give our audience actionable steps to use in their business that will bring lasting results. Catch all our episodes on your favorite podcast app. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And also subscribe and like our posts that we put out there. We have some phenomenal guests, and today is no different. I want to welcome my special guest today, Stephen Tako. He is an accomplished children's book author of Junga the Dancing Yeti meets Heidi. And it's a series of books. You're going to hear a little bit more about the whole series and meet the author himself. And I'm excited because he is here. And Stephen, welcome to Speaker Central.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I've been looking forward to officially meeting you. We've known each other since 2014. Can you believe it?
I know.
The first time we've actually seen each other face to face. So that's great.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, we've communicated through different social media channels, on the phone and through email, and it's nice to finally see you, even though we're not face to face, right?
We're kind of face to face.
Yeah, we are just not in person. So our conversation today is going to be about Junga the Dancing Yeti meets Heidi and anti-bullying. And, Stephen, what I'd love for you to do is just kind of start out sharing with us, who are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. So I am an author. I'm a business professional. Look, many people have their regular job, and then they have their passion projects. And so my day job is I am a professional working in the banking industry, but I have also dabbled in entertainment for many years. In fact, I did full-time entertainment. I worked on some TV shows and movies, and I still host when we're not in COVID. I still host some of the film festivals in Los Angeles, and I really enjoy it. Well, one of the films that I worked on in 2011 was called Abominable. And I played a Yeti, which is a Yeti is an abominable snowman. So it's kind of like the Bigfoot family, but it's on the frozen mountain side of Bigfoots. So I played this Yeti in the film, and they had to custom make the costume for me because I'm 6'7" almost.
Are you really?
And,
oh my goodness. I didn't even realize how tall you are.
So I played the Yeti, and just because I love to dance, and I thought it'd be fun to do a YouTube video of me dancing in this costume. So on the last day of filming, I asked them to film me dancing in the costume, and they did, and the whole crew is laughing watching me dance. And they filmed it, and in fact, they even used the footage of me dancing. They used it in the ending credits of their film. So that's the very beginning stages of the Dancing Yeti. Since then, Shelly, I took the character. They gave me the costume because they said they didn't need it. Yeah. So it was very cool.
Yeah.
So the tough part about it, though, is that whenever I wanted to use it, I had to hire a special effects makeup artist to go with me to do all of the prosthetics and the makeup. So it's not just like a costume I could stick on my head and show up at an event. So it's very time consuming, and it cost me money every time I went to an area. But I did children's literary events where we're promoting reading, and it was a lot of fun. I went to some youth-oriented functions dressed up as the Dancing Yeti. And there was another costume character at one of them who highly recommended that I actually come up with a real name for the character and not just the Dancing Yeti.
Yeah.
And that's where I came up with the name Junga. Which just kind of came into my head looking at a variety of different names, and it stuck. It just seemed to go well. So I decided that I'm going to start focusing on what can I do with this character to make a difference in the world. And later on in 2011, I worked on a movie called Gangster Squad with Ryan Gosling and Sean Penn, and it was a very amazing movie to work on. But we always have downtime during these movies, so I had a pad of paper and I started writing this story called The Dancing Yeti Takes a Trip, and it was about this little young boy who goes on a journey with his grandmother. And in this story, I eventually just kind of like, it just kind of sat, sometimes you write your ideas down and you think, I can write a book about my life, or, one of these days I'll do some big fancy thing with this. And then it usually is stuffed in a drawer and life takes over and you forget about it. And if anything, Shelley, I can say I have had a lot of perseverance. I don't give up on things. And this Junga, this whole Yeti just kept coming up, and then it would be in the back burner again for a year, and then all of a sudden I'd start working on it again. Yeah. And I eventually molded it where I decided to write a full story book based on this character and how he was discriminated against with his grandmother. They went on a trip. So the very first book is just called Junga the Dancing Yeti. And that was published by Confident Life Enterprises in 2018.
Oh, congratulations on that. Yeah.
And it really delves on bullying and anti-discrimination. It teaches children the importance of not judging people by how they look. And so the second book just came out in 2020. So just a couple months ago. So that's Junga the Dancing Yeti meets Heidi. And he meets a little human girl up on the mountain where they're living. And they end up getting bullied by another new character named Groth. And Groth is like a local Bigfoot character who he's got a problem. In the book, children learn why Groth is acting the way that he's acting, why he's acting out and being a bully. And Junga and Heidi, instead of teaching children that bullies are bad people, we're helping them understand that every person has a purpose, and many people many children will act out because of something that is going wrong in their life. And now sometimes some kids are just bullies because they think that they're better than everybody else, and that's a completely different story we could talk about. But in this particular case, Groth is dealing with a big problem. His whole family is dealing with a big problem, and that causes him to act out. And so Junga and Heidi do the unthinkable thing. Instead of just casting judgment on the bully, they actually decide to help him with his problem. And that teaches children that many times there is a way that you can melt the heart of somebody who might seem callous and unkind. And random acts of kindness sometimes can really, really transform somebody's life so that they're no longer going to be this bully. They're actually now going to be a new friend. And that's what we're trying to do with this series of books. And a long way of answering your question, who am I? What am I doing? Yeah. So I am an anti-bullying advocate. And I never really thought that I was going to be one until in 2012, when my book called Motivated to Act was published by Enchanted Forest Press, my publisher said to me, Stephen, I need you to give me, because I was sharing stories about when I was bullied. When I was younger, I was bullied terribly, and I was a nice kid. I didn't stick up for myself. I was an easy target.
Yeah.
And I was skinny and, super tall and skinny. And so kids found me easily to be bullied. And so in that book, when I'm sharing these things that had happened to me, she said, Stephen, she goes, you had me going. I was so excited about where you're headed with your story, but then all of a sudden you left and you went off to something else. She goes, give me more meat and potatoes. Give me statistics. Tell me about cyberbullying. And I was like, well, Dawn, I never experienced cyberbullying. She goes, it doesn't matter. Do your research and put that in the book. So the Motivated to Act, which was my first ever published book, that was the book that actually is what thrust me into the whole anti-bullying movement.
Wow.
And I'd already had the story from a year earlier about this Yeti character.
Yeah, because you had been writing about it on set.
Right. So then I was like, how can I tie the bullying and this Yeti all together? And it was a process of picking it up, working on it whenever I had time.
Yeah.
And then it just all of a sudden in 2017, my dad passed away, and I was really I had a couple of characters drawn, the illustrations done. And after my dad passed away and I was living in Ohio for a while, my fiance said, you know what? She goes, your dad would want you to get this book done. You've been talking about doing it for years, and let's just go ahead and do a fundraising campaign and let's get all the illustrations done. Let's get this book done. And that's what I did. She encouraged me. A lot of people, look, I am really good at a lot of things, but sometimes we all need that little push. And she was the one that helped push me in the right direction so that I could get the book done. And I was really thrilled with the response that I got on Amazon. There's over, I think, 44 positive reviews on there. Just to hear kids talk about how much they love the book. And
well, the characters look so lovable, and even though it's about anti-bullying, it's, when you look at that book and you think, gosh, it really started from when you were in that movie wearing that costume. And then, like you pointed out, you had to do the prosthetics and that, but it was something that was very passionate for you. And becoming an anti-bullying advocate, sometimes it takes a lot of pain, just from our childhood in the past, where a lot of us were bullied. I mean, I was bullied too, for different reasons, but I also stuck up for myself, and I had, a family that stuck up for me too, which helped me get through it. But I think that there's a lot of kids, and the books that you have, what age group again? Can you share with our audience, Stephen? I know that there's a special age group.
Sure. Yes. The Junga book series is for children 4 to 7 years old. That's the main target. Now, I've seen toddlers who are 2 and 3 years old that wear some of the Junga the Dancing Yeti shirts, and they love the image, and it looks so cute. It looks so cute to see these little kids wearing the shirts. And then there are 8 and 9-year-old kids that love the story. They love reading it, and sometimes they enjoy reading it to their younger siblings.
Yeah, I was going to say they could probably, read it to their younger siblings, or cousins, or even classrooms.
Right. And we've had many parents tell us that they love reading the story with their child as well, and they get it gives them a chance to go over some of these life lessons with the child, and the child's learning, but they don't even realize it. They don't realize that they're learning these valuable lessons through the book. And so my hope is that we can encourage more schools and teachers, schools and parents to engage with their children in the book. And I have teamed up with some educators who are helping me put together lesson plans.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, we'll be able to provide those for schools and homeschools as well to do the lesson plan. We have so many fun things. I could talk for hours about some of the stuff that we have planned.
It could definitely, I mean, it can expand to so many wonderful things. And, I want to give you a thank you to including one of our clients. We have Dave DeRocher, who is phenomenal person to begin with, just a really cool person. He is a former NFL football player with the Seattle Seahawks, and he wrote an endorsement for Stephen's book. So I just want to let our audience know that. And thank you, Stephen, for doing that. And I know you guys already have a pretty solid plan for doing some campaigning too with the book this year.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, right now we have one Rotary Club. That's the Rotary Club of Santa Clarita Valley in Los Angeles County, and they're one of our executive producers for this book. They purchased 100 books to give out to all of the primary schools in Santa Clarita Valley, and also to some of the libraries.
Yeah.
And so they have 50 of the new book and 50 of the first book from Junga, and so it was very exciting that they were doing this, because I love what
really
Rotary Club does. They're full of people who are entrepreneurs and people who are like really into the community, that want to they want to leave their legacy. Maybe not everybody is artistic that can come up with a book and come up with all these cool things that we do, and yet we need people like the Rotary Club and like Dave DeRocher, who are like well-known, influential people that can open up the door to introduce what we're doing.
To make introductions. Oh, absolutely.
Right. Absolutely. And so Dave knows a lot of other people at other Rotaries. And so I'm working with the area governor of the Rotary to help open up some doors, so we can go in and as COVID is lifting, and some of the restrictions are lifting, what Dave and I want to do is we want to go travel to some of these schools and do live presentations, and we'll teach the children that, look, it might look like I'm like this big successful guy because I have 3 published books and I've worked on these big Hollywood movies, but life is not easy.
Yeah,
I was one of those kids
to get there, if you really think about it, right? Because as a child, being bullied, it can be very painful. Yeah.
Right. And there's a fine line, Shelley, of me sharing with people about the pain that I endured as a child being bullied. And that line is this person still suffering and hasn't gotten over it? Because there'll be some people like, you know what, Tako, I've heard you talk about this forever. When are you going to get over it? And I say, let me clarify. I'm over it. I'm not still like reliving these memories. I did for a long time.
Yeah.
I was 21 years old when I finally made a conscious decision to in my heart, to forgive all the kids that did things to me, forgive myself for allowing it to happen, and forgive my dad, because I had a terrible relationship with my father when I was growing up, and I forgave him as well.
Wow.
Thank goodness he and I became super close during the last 5 years of his life.
Well, I'm glad to hear. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm not one of those people that when I talk about the experiences, I talk just so that people know that I lived it and I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to forgive and move on.
Yeah.
And there are many people that I talk to, Shelley, because when Motivated to Act came out, Motivated to Act is more for teenagers and adults. When that book came out and I got thrust into the whole anti-bullying movement, I've started realizing there are so many people that are holding on to this. They're holding on to this pain of things that happened to them, the memories of stuff that happened to them by children.
Yeah.
These
Well, and it
children,
shapes us, it shapes us. And it's a good thing that at 21 that, you came to that conscious decision of forgiving everyone, because that's not an easy thing to do, because some people will carry it through their lifetime. And it's unfortunate, that happens. But I think those can be deep seated sometimes, where just having that, that book early on in childhood, between, like you said, between the ages of 4 and 7, right? Or maybe even 3 and 8. I mean, it could be.
Oh yeah. And what's funny was that my dad, I wrote about my dad in the book Motivated to Act.
Oh, so you did.
The first chapter is called A Damaged Child. And that's where I shared a lot of the things that happened to me and about my relationship with my father. And before I published it, before the publisher, I said, Dad, my publisher wants to take this out on the road, and I've written about you in here, and I want to make sure that you're okay with this before it's published. And he said, Stephen, he goes, I know I was hard on you kids, but I know that I loved all of you, and that I would have done anything I could to have helped you, but I had a short temper, and I'm sorry about that. But I will tell you one thing, and that is, I think all of you kids, I'm the youngest of 6. Well, there's actually 8 of us all together.
Oh,
but he goes, I'm proud of all of you kids, and he goes, I think all of you turned out really well. So I tell you, so there's nothing that you would have written in there that's going to make me mad. I said, okay, Dad. So he didn't want to read it until it was published. He was a blind faith. And I published it. Our Enchanted Forest Press published the book. And when my dad saw it, he was completely fine with what I wrote. I wasn't bashing him.
So he finally did read it then. He finally did read it.
Yeah, he did read it. And what was really cool for me was, because my dad and I, remember, we weren't close, but it was around 2013 that I was back in Ohio helping him with a project at his house. And I heard him bragging to some of his friends about his son, the author.
Oh, wow. Isn't that cool, though, when you really look at that, and the things that have happened to us in our past, we don't have to repeat that. We can move on and accomplish wonderful things. And you're a prime example of that, because here you are, you had a difficult relationship with your own father early on, and having been bullied. I mean, again, I can relate to the bullying, and here you are, doing the things that you're doing, but because you're wanting to help other people. It's not because you're trying to get the spotlight or anything like that. You're truly an anti-bullying advocate. You really are.
Right. Thank you for noticing and mentioning that. And yes, I thought, look, because of my experiences, I question why did I have to go through that? And it's like, I could answer like, oh, well, poor me. I had to suffer through all that. But I thought, maybe I was meant to go through all that, because I'm the type of person that can then turn it around and use those experiences so that I'm more relatable, so that kids will listen to what I have to say, and hopefully they'll take creed in what I'm trying to present to them. And it was my dad, of all people. My dad was the one that said, Stephen, I really think that you should focus on just the young 6-year-old Yeti, and stop showing up as the adult Yeti with the prosthetics and makeup and all that stuff, because you're going to confuse people, as to which character are they supposed to focus on.
And that makes sense too.
And then he said, kids, you want the cuter young Yeti, and kids are going to want the T-shirts and and fun things that come along with that. And thank goodness he did get a chance to see the illustrations of Junga and Grandma before he passed. But the book was pretty much finished writing in 2015. In 2018 is when we finished it. And I decided, my sisters actually said, Stephen, wouldn't it be neat if you could maybe put like a Grandpa Yeti in there, to pay homage to Dad, because our dad had just passed.
Yeah.
And I said, it does sound neat to be able to do that, but I don't have a Grandpa Yeti. I have Grandma Yeti, and the story's been written, and I'm already like a third of the way into all of the illustrations at this point. And I thought, I don't really want to add another character just to add a character. So what I did was there is one scene where Grandma Yeti is talking to Junga's parents. And in that scene, without any mention of Grandpa Yeti at all, in that scene, I had the artist put a portrait of Grandpa Yeti on the wall.
Oh.
And so when you look through the book, you'll see the conversation she's having with the parents, and you'll see there's a portrait of Grandpa Yeti. And I gave an image of my dad to the illustrator. And the illustrator did an amazing job of taking my dad and yetifying him, turning him into.
Oh my gosh, that gave me chills just thinking about that process and how you had woven him into the storyline, knowing that it was most of the way through. That is so creative.
Yeah,
Stephen.
thanks.
Really
Thanks. I appreciate it. He actually my dad actually made a little cameo visit into the second book as well. In the second book, Grandma Yeti is sitting in a chair, and she, a lot of elderly people, sometimes they just like to sit alone. They just like quiet, and they like to be alone in their thoughts. And so that's just one of the lessons in this next book, that just because they like to be alone doesn't mean that they're mad at the children or that they're lonely or anything like that. They enjoy sometimes having that peace and quiet. And so there is one little image in the second book where Grandma's sitting there in her chair, and she's having a nice flashback image of she and Grandpa Yeti dancing together. And my dad is wearing. Grandpa Yeti is wearing lederhosen, because my dad used to love going to Oktoberfest.
Oh, that is just so fascinating. I mean, just to know that it's not just a story. You put a lot of thought into it, and just the characters, how you bring them to life. It's just it's phenomenal to see, the results and I know that actually I need to put my order in, because I have a grandson who's 4, soon to be 5, and that's going to be one of his gifts for his birthday. So I'll be putting my order in for the book.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'll definitely connect you with some people. I mean, there are so many people that my mind is spinning, because there are a lot of people that I've done work with, like Dave, and Dave was actually bullied too when he was younger, and I'm sure he shared that with you. Dave,
right?
Sure. Yeah. And I connect with a lot of Rotary Clubs, so we're going to need to talk about that.
Oh,
and
please.
Yeah, and then also I have with the Veterans Chamber of Commerce, I work with Dolly Rivera, she has a show on anti-bullying, and she moved out of California, and I can't remember offhand where she moved to.
I'm scheduled to be on her show.
What's that?
I'm scheduled to be on her show.
Oh, phenomenal. Very good. How did you meet Dolly?
Dave DeRocher.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I introduced Dave to see how that works. I love just the affiliation and the connection. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll love Dolly, and she has a wonderful show. Wonderful show. Good. Yeah. And for you, Stephen, where do you think the inspiration came from for you to, because you have a day job. I mean, you're a professional, you have a corporate job during the day. Where did all this inspiration come from to do what you're doing with the book series?
That's a great question. In 2009, I went on a family trip to Yellowstone National Park.
Oh, beautiful place.
Yeah, it was an amazing trip. We were there for about 4 days, I think. And while I was there, Shelley, I started thinking about how amazing this park is. And I actually write this. Right. I'll give you the short version, but I wrote about it more in Motivated to Act. But what happened was I started thinking about how small and insignificant we are compared to this amazing world that we live in.
Yeah.
And so there's so many different aspects, like Yellowstone Park. There's the buffalo, there's the tourists that come through, there's the geysers that shoot off like clockwork. And I started thinking about, gee, one day I'm going to be dead. One day I'm not going to be here anymore. And what is my legacy? What am I leaving behind that people are going to remember me by?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I have a son, so he's going to remember me, and he'll have thoughts of things that we fun things that we did together. But I thought, I've always had this like artistic flair about me that I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something more exciting. Look, doing mortgages is fine, and I enjoy it. And I really do get a kick out of helping people get a nice low interest rate, and help them get into their house, because it's the biggest investment of their lives usually.
Right.
And that part's very exciting and rewarding, and financially it does really well too. But the artistic side of it all, I needed some outlet for that. And so when I was writing the books, that it made me feel like I can jump back into my head, and I can be Junga. I can see what it's like to be in that cage, and to be tormented by the condor birds that are picking on him, and to see what it's like to have other kids picking on you. And I thought, geez, this is just a great creative way for me to get my creative juices flowing, and to leave a legacy, because someday I'm going to be gone.
For your son and his children, and
I hope that my great grandchildren are going to be picking up these books and reading them, and think about, oh wow, my great grandfather wrote this, and I don't know how many books I'll do, but
But this is definitely the beginning,
cool.
And you've got a couple already that you've done. And, when you think about it, you could really impact a lot of lives with these books, because, kids are always going to be bullied, which is unfortunate to think about. We can't eradicate it all, 100%. But we can provide them with tools and resources to help them, guide them through it, help prevent, them being bullies or to be bullied. And, I think that just reflecting back on my childhood, had I read the book, it probably would have changed the way I looked at bullying. And I'm sure that a lot of people, once it gets in the hands of, parents and children and all the, the schools where, in collaboration with the Rotary Clubs, this could be a true anti-bullying movement, right? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Next week, I'm going to be speaking to, doing 2 presentations to schools in New York. And it's going to be virtual like I am with you, but they're going to pipe me into all of the classrooms.
Gosh.
And I'm going to do one presentation for children that are K through 3rd grade. And then I'm going to do another presentation for 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And so I'll tailor the presentations to the older,
to gear to the age group. Sure. Oh,
and I'm excited about that, because I want to work a lot with schools, and that's why. And I know we haven't mentioned this, but we're starting a nonprofit organization called motivatedtoact.org. It's that's going to be the website, but Motivated to Act is an anti-bullying foundation where we were going to help. Like this school that I'm working with in New York, they have a nice budget. They're able to afford me to come out and speak. The parents there can afford the books and T-shirts and the Junga stickers and face masks and all the fun stuff that we have. But there are a lot of underprivileged children that don't have that luxury. And so we want our anti-bullying foundation to be able to reach some of the kids.
To fund that, or companies that want to contribute. So that's a good thing. So I think, on this show, we want to make sure that people understand that, it's something that they could contribute to. If they're looking for a great cause, your foundation would be an excellent, reason for them to, to contribute, to help kids that, really of all ages, because bullying exists, as even in kindergarten or even smaller than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing why my dad said as well. And people that were on my talk show, I had a talk show called Tako Talk.
Right. That's how we met.
Yeah. That's right. And I interviewed pretty much from 2014 to 2018. And I've got about 30 episodes on YouTube. And I interviewed a lot of people who are sports celebrities and people who are in the business, like counselors that work with school children, to give tips on what parents can do to help their children that are being bullied. And I talked to people that were bullied and how they handled it, how they processed it. And so with that show, it just, everything just starts springboarding and feeding off of one another. And it really kind of elevated and put me into this position, and it's a big responsibility, and I'm up for the challenge.
It is. It's not easy, because you're doing a book launch. You have all the other things that go along with it, and opportunities are just going to show up. You realize that,
right?
People are going to connect you. They're going to, like already, Dolly, and you'll be doing her show, and well,
and then you had mentioned about donating, and so we just finished our website, and it's jungayeti.com. And on jungayeti.com, anybody can go there and they can read all about the things that you and I have just talked about. We can read about the books and about our mission and what we're doing with schools, and they can donate at this time. Now we don't have the nonprofit actually in place right now. But there are people like, hey, you know what? I like what you're doing. I see the direction that you're going in, and and I'm happy to go ahead. I don't need any tax write-offs at this point. I'm happy to go ahead and throw some donation your way so that you can get some of these other steps done of the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And then once the nonprofit is in place, we've got some amazing people that we're talking to that want to be on the board of directors. And we're in a unique position, Shelly, because
you really are.
There's a lot of other nonprofit out there that are doing some pretty great things, but we have this very cool cast of characters that we can use to bring our message home to children in a fun, relatable way with storytelling and great characters that they could proudly wear on their shirt, on their head,
or
different
sticker,
things like that.
Or the
stickers.
Yeah, it's just endless. Lunch boxes. We can keep going,
Endless, book bags,
exciting.
All kinds of things that we can do with it. So I'm excited to see where it's going. I hope that someday we'll have at least 10 Junga books out there.
Awesome.
But the next book is that's coming out is we've got the Adventures of Junga the Dancing Yeti. And it is a activity and coloring book. And so we are about 3/4 of the way done with that book.
How exciting.
And then the next hardcover book is due out next year, and that is called A Very Yeti Christmas.
Yes.
And
we talked about that, and I'm excited to see that come out too. And then there goes another, where now it's Christmas shirts and different things that go along with the holiday season.
All kinds of fun things. And if you look at what Groth looks like, Groth actually looks like he's the bully, he's the Bigfoot, but he actually kind of looks like a Christmas tree himself. So
I'll have to look. I remember seeing the video, but I don't remember Groth. But I'll look again.
Groth is not in the video because the video is on the first book.
Oh, I see. Okay, so so I'll definitely have to get a glimpse of Groth.
Yeah. So when you place your order for the books for your granddaughter, is it?
Grandson,
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, so then you'll get a chance to see Groth in there as well.
I'm excited to see that.
And we did a casting call. We did a casting call for Heidi and Groth, and we ended up picking. It's kind of funny. We ended up picking a brother and sister from New York that first I picked the daughter, the Heidi, the girl.
Yeah.
Her name, and she's played by Kyla Carter. And Kyla is she's known through Nickelodeon and DreamWorks Animation because she's part of the Trolls franchise. So she plays CJ in Trolls, and so she's already known. She's got a Nickelodeon show that she was on, and then her brother Camden.
She'll make a great Heidi.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she loves to sing. So I'm sure we'll use her voice in some of the Christmas songs that we do for next year.
Wow, things are really starting to just blossom in your world. And, I really appreciate you being on the show today, Stephen. I know we're out of time. And what's cool is that there's times where I go through interviews, I don't even have to ask very many questions because you just gave so much great information. You talked about the book series and anti-bullying and I'm excited for all of the projects that you have coming up. And I know that I'll make some connections for you too, just going into 2021. I mean, we're still kind of early in the year, but there's a lot happening in your world and with Junga the Dancing Yeti. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get a book in my grandson's hands.
Yes.
So, thanks again for being here, Stephen. We're going to make sure that everybody has the show notes. The show notes will have all your contact information. And we'll also make sure that we push this show out because I really want to promote anti-bullying and just make sure that people know who you are and what you do and the greatness that you're really doing for children and for the just for the schools and tying in with the Rotary Club. So great job on all of that.
Thank you so much, Shelley. It was a real pleasure to speak with you on your show.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Same here. I really enjoyed just getting to finally see you face to face and have this wonderful conversation. I want to thank our followers and our subscribers for tuning in to this episode of Speaker Central. I also want to give our sponsors a shout out. So we have Connected Women of Influence, which is a national women's organization, and it's led by Michelle Berquist. They also have Sue Talks, Women Lead Radio, and Women Lead Publishing. So for today on this episode, we're going to check out. But again, thank you so much for being here with us. And please be sure to subscribe, like, and share our shows. Catch you next time.
Hey there, did you enjoy the episode? If you did, subscribe to Speaker Central.